Welcome to the RPGamer review of the Outer World 2. This is read by Spermbress, written by Yoru, and the video is edited by Frog. As a standalone sequel to the Outer World, the Outer Worlds 2 promise a new, bigger solar system with more planets, more divergent gameplay, more weapons, and deeper RPG system. To boot, it also features an entirely new cast of characters, looking to widen its scope to boldly go even further into the reach of space. The Outer Worlds 2 succeed in offering players a wide variety of choices both in its character progression and combat, and make from some bold attempt at deviating story branches, especially early on. However, it sadly falls flat in almost every conceivable dimension, with a otherwise mediocre experience frequently and constantly hindering by bugs, glitches, and immersion-destroying sequence breaks, resulting in a game that does not feel sufficiently prepared for launch. Taking place in the Arcadia star system, the Outer Worlds 2 see player-created character navigating a factional conflict over the solar system planet, resources, and trade routes. As an agent of the Earth Directorate, an organization created to mediate between Earth and its interstellar colonies, players are tasked with investigating the appearance of dangerous and destructive spatial rifts, which have cut off communication with Earth. And Arcadia, the totalitarian protectorate government, maintains a monopoly over the production of superluminal travel technology, which prompt the hyper-capitalist megacorporation anti-choice to invade, setting off a massive war. Much of the early game, especially on the first planet, focuses on the conflict between the Protectorate and Auntie's choice, and it is not a particularly interesting conflict. Both factions are cheap, surface-level pastiche of totalitarianism and corporatism, respectively. The critique and satire are banal at best, especially when pit against each other, which leaves a boring, terrible first impression. The Outer Worlds 2 has a strange mismatch of humorous overtone while having a darker tonal core. Sing-song radio broadcasts celebrating workplace dismemberment accident juxtapose relentless, gruesome summary execution and brainwashing torture. Not only does the humor fall flat on its own, but the tonal clash with the game's darker narrative focus on egregious enough to stretch the suspension of disbelief well beyond the breaking point. That said, the Outer World 2 does better with elements relating the other faction and player dialogue choice, resulting in narrative divergence. The Order, a technocratic religious society focused on mathematics, is markedly more interesting, as in the Golden Dawn cult, whose members are obsessed with the rift and have a fanatic, violent death drive toward them. Asa, one of the recruitable party members who has an insane psychopathic bloodlust, stands out as more compelling and believable in a game where too many of the ostensibly more rational characters simply act as overly dogmatic mouthpieces for their respective faction. Beyond character faction, some geniusly cool choice impact the plot in major way early on, although the relentless presence of glitches and bugs in the review build massively undercut this positive. And the most egregious instance of technical issues, one of the first available party members, Inez, has her initial recruitment quest bug, and it can become impossible to complete. During this quest, it is possible to select a dialogue choice that lead her to leave. Yet, despite this being a choice, every party member afterward from the rest of the game remark on her dismissal from the crew, even though they hadn't met her at all. Entire companion quest line, Asa in particular, can become wholly incompletable, and it is even possible to become hard locked in a room halfway through the game. The Outer Worlds 2 is riddled with bugs, glitches, and sequence break too numerous to list that absolutely destroy its interactive element and brutally hamper the story few redeeming qualities. Fortunately, the Outer Worlds 2 is more enjoyable in combat than outside of it. The action combat resolves around using either guns or melee weapons to attack enemies in the field. Players are given 12 different stats that they can level, which impact performance in combat and allow the development of perks. Movement and gunplay are smooth and satisfying, and melee weapons are generally fine to use. It's somewhat simple. Early on, the incorporation of RPG element and elemental differentiation between weapon types, plasma for fire, corrosive for armor depletion, shock for electric, feel deftly incorporated. And there are neat and interesting way to attack enemy body part and weak spot that encourage player to be deliberate in their approach. Unfortunately, the incorporation of the equipment and extension of stat into combat and gameplay become quite unbalanced later in the game. Some stats are quite useless compared to others, and the mod system for armor feels superfluous and bloated. Stats like observation and explosive either see very little use or are too expensive to warrant focusing on, whereas focus on stats like sneak and speech grant on a one-size-fits-all approach to most of the challenge in the game. By the end of the game, even some of the most powerful automechanical enemies can be killed in a single sneak attack due to some ridiculous percentage-based increase conferring by leveling. Other stats like lockpick eventually feel underwhelming too, as many door and room more often than not have repetitive and redundant reward, especially when exploring outside of the main story. Visually, the Outer Worlds 2 is largely fine, with a few flashes of brilliance here and there, and its world and architectural design. There is a lot of considerable attention to detail in the environments. And the first two planets are interesting, colorful, and presented well. In particular, the planet Dorado is quite gorgeous, especially at night, and its vibrant, glowing crystal amid the grand golden and ruined architecture of the planet stand out as a particular highlight. Sadly, the other planets aren't quite as interesting, as the visual fidelity of facial capture and expression just isn't good, which detract from the game that focuses so heavy on dialogue. On the sound front, the overall soundtrack does the job it needs to do, but is mostly unremarkable. Aside from the local based ambient tracks, there are some neat overture of the main menu and other areas. And the endgame radio for the various factions provides some compositionally interesting music and insight into their cultures, even if the humor and lyrical content of the song largely fall flat. The instrumentation demonstrates a strong effort. Voice acting in the game varies in quality, but performances are mostly good, although glitches and bugs once again rear their early head here too, as the dialogue regularly cut off or become entirely silent, which significantly hampers immersion through the entire experience. Despite all of its environment detail, scope, and promise of a wider, more exciting spacefaring adventure, The Outer World 2 is a disappointment. While it offers divergence and choice, its paper-thin satire, tonal mismatch, and balancing oddities see the experience crumble under the weight. In addition, the review built far too many immersion-destroying bugs, blocking questline and other sequence break ensure that the game issue outweighed its redeeming qualities. RPGamer give The Outer World 2 2 out of 5. For more detail, hit the link in the description below. For more video content, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitch for daily stream of your favorite RPGs. Join on the discussion at rpgamer.com on Discord. And for the latest and RPG news, head over to rpgamer.com.